Humanist Perspective, presented by the New Orleans Secular Humanist Association, following a few principles of humanism.
We're committed to the use of science and reason for understanding the universe and for solving human problems. We're skeptical of untested claims of knowledge, but we're open to new ideas.
We are concerned with securing justice and fairness in society and in ending intolerance and discrimination. We are committed to the total separation of religion and government.
We affirm humanism as a realistic alternative to the theologies of despair and the ideologies of violence. We reject the concept of an afterlife and believe in living a full and rewarding life here and now.
We value and respect each individual's right to judge and lead their lives according to their own position, as long as it's respectful of other people living in a free society.
We hope you enjoy today's program and others in the weeks to follow.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of the New Orleans Humanist Perspective. My name is Charlotte Clausen, President of the Board of Directors of the New Orleans Secular Humanist Association, which is the sponsor of this program, and I will be your host today. If you would like to know more about NOSHA, please go to our website, www.nosha.info, and you'll find out more about our upcoming events and programs there. I'd like to introduce my guest. His name is Jason Bradbury. He's an independent investigative journalist and a freelance videographer, which has allowed him to do groundbreaking work on everyone from Senator David Vitter and former New Orleans Mayor Ray Nagin. And he operates the blog, The American Zombie. I happen to know he's an avid golfer, and we have been honored to have him represent NOSHA at a city council meeting in the past, talking about discrimination. He's a proud West Bank resident and a part-time treasure hunter, which is what we'll be talking about today. He's a graduate of the University of Mississippi with a degree in journalism and anthropology. And he has made two appearances on the panel of the local media celebrity Jeff Crouer's Politics with a Punch on Stage as an independent voice for our community. So you are a cottage industry, and we welcome you to the show.
Well, thank you very much. It's very happy to be here.
Oh, great. I know we're going to really enjoy talking about this. The title, of course, of this is The Secret, which you will explain. But I did want to say that one thing about it was very captivating to me when I first saw your interview on television this spring, and it made me realize how much that kind of thing, being a treasure hunter, it's kind of magical, and it captures our imagination. We hear about people who do that across, like in the West. You know, they sometimes die on these, you know, going into the terrain and looking for these, whether we know that the treasure's real or not. And it brought me back to thinking about different movies that have that, the next clue, like Romancing the Stone with Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner, and the National Treasure movies with Nicolas Cage.
Right.
And I remember something in that movie that where I think his father says that the one thing about it is you get a clue, which is going to lead you to another clue, and all you're going to have are clues. But I know that there's something rewarding in it, because it's just an enduring kind of excitement that somebody would take that on. So I'm going to turn it over to you and let you explain what is The Secret.
Yeah. So this The Secret was it was a book that The Secret of Treasure Hunt was the book that was written published back in 1982 by an author, Byron Price, or Price, depending on how you pronounce it. Mm-hmm. He was a science fiction author, and he had actually written some other books. Some of them didn't end up getting published, actually. He'd co-written a book about the Masons and how the secret history of the Masons. So he had a real big fascination with them. Mm-hmm. And so he wrote this book at the time, right around the late 70s and the early 80s. The whole rage was scavenger hunts. Mm-hmm. And I think he was kind of enterprising on that. But I think that he also this is kind of a Solomon's Key puzzle. The same what you just said. It's like it is very closely more to a treasure hunt, the movie with Nicolas Cage.
Okay. Right.
But basically, what it consists of, it's a book that is kind of written in a fictional narrative of fairies and werewolves and things like that.
Okay.
But there are 12 puzzles. There are 12 images, and then there are 12 verses. And those 12 verses line up with the 12 images. Okay.
I see, and they're part of a fictional story.
They're part. Well, it is a fictional narrative through the book, but it's metaphor. It's a lot of metaphor, basically.
Okay.
So the whole thing. I mean, the visual metaphor. The verses are all metaphors, but they relate to actual cities in the United States and possibly one in Canada. We're not sure, but the clues match up with the images, and the images were painted by a artist named Jude Palencar, who was he'd done a lot of work for Lovecraft and painting the covers of science fiction. Just an unbelievably talented guy. These images are just mind-bogglingly complex, and that's what I got fascinated with more than anything was the images themselves.
Oh, okay. And well, then why did you get involved? How did that start for you? Because I mean, it's obvious you had to become obsessed to have taken it to this degree.
Yeah, when I lived in the Quarter back in like the late '90s, and I'd actually someone had showed me the book, and I kind of looked into it back in, not really, just kind of brushed it because it wasn't really that fascinating to me at the time. And then the show Expedition Unknown with Josh Gates came out last January. There was an episode where they highlighted the puzzles again.
Oh, okay.
And I remembered, there's a New Orleans puzzle, and I was looking at it, and I'm like, you know what? I think I know where that is, which of course I didn't at the time. But I started looking into it again, and I got completely obsessed. I mean, now that the internet is so advanced, and I work in video production, so I'm pretty good with imaging, with Photoshop, and with other imaging tools. I immediately jumped into the images because I wanted to see if there were things inside of them that people hadn't found, and what I found was unbelievable. A lot of the people, there are forums out there for the hunters, and they think I'm crazy, and that's fine. They're telling me that it's pareidolia, that I'm seeing things.
Well, and how many of them are there like you?
There's a hardcore group in a couple of these forums. But I think that in terms of the interest, it's thousands of people.
Oh, okay. So it literally thousands of people, and they're focusing on the puzzles that are closest to them. So you don't have don't have anyone who
usually there's some that have looked comprehensively at all of them, which I've done after I kind of I believe kind of cracked the code on the images.
Because then you could apply that to all of the images to help kind of
understand the other images. But it started with me and the New Orleans puzzle, and I realized pretty early on that it was in Armstrong Park. And after spending way too much time going out to Armstrong Park every week, and examining it and prodding it with a prod, because the puzzle, what the puzzle is it's an actual ceramic cask with a ceramic key in it, and it's buried in a plexiglass box, and it's buried 2.5 feet under the ground in 12 different cities around the United States, New Orleans being one of them, Boston, Charleston, South Carolina, New York City,
Houston,
San Francisco. So 2 of them have been found. Chicago and Cleveland have been found. And what I think happened there was those puzzles were probably the easiest too. And but I don't think the hunters there actually unraveled the full extent of what the puzzle is. And you don't have to unravel the full extent. You can get lucky and walk up on it. But I think I've unraveled what it is, and there's interestingly enough, a Masonic connection to all of the puzzles.
Okay. Before you talk about the Masonic part of it, during this process, and obviously you said you started in earnest this year, is that correct? Did you have moments where you really second-guessed yourself? Like you wake up in a sweat in the middle of the night thinking, I've got that wrong, and now I'm...
That's all it is.
Is that constant
sweating
and failing?
It's constant failure until, so, I mean, that's what it was. I mean, I was dreaming about these puzzles, you know?
Right.
I was that obsessed with it because, you know, I would literally spend hours and hours flipping these images over, altering the color balance and shifting the color balance.
To try to see if there's something in it that's obscure.
Right,
okay.
Trying to see how they work and then understanding how it worked with the park. And I hit kind of pay dirt in one of the images when I found a coordinate inside of the image, and I immediately jumped on Google Earth, which is the absolute tool you have to solve these things, you know? Even though he wrote them pre-Google Earth, but what he was doing was using a map and, a protractor and a compass and mapping out everything that way. I jumped on Google Earth one night and I realized what was going on, and that there was actually a grid that was created in the park, and it was a Masonic themed grid.
Okay.
Right. So,
yes. Go ahead. Make sure we.
And this is where people
that.
think I'm nuts. A lot of people in the hunt think I'm making all this up, which is fine. I'm happy they think that.
Yeah.
And what has happened is I've to test the theory, the hypothesis, I've looked at all of the puzzles and I have found the grid and solved at this point 9 of the remaining 10. So
really.
Yeah.
So does that put you in a category? I mean,
a lot of people think they've solved them, and that's what everybody's going to say. I think I've solved them, and I'm wrong, but I'm not wrong.
Okay. Okay.
So
we heard it here.
I'm that
folks.
confident.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm working with hunters in other cities in Houston, and they know they found some of the same things.
I see. So you're getting there. It's reproducible evidence.
It is reproducible.
You're using the correct.
And I like that we're having this discussion on NOSHA for
Yes, it does.
We're looking for testable hypotheses,
right?
And we are testing them, and they're reproducing the same results. So, San Francisco, I'm working with a hunter, and he actually just got his first dig in the spot we thought it was, and I got something wrong. And we missed the spot, but we're going to go back and we figured out why I got it wrong once we did that.
I see.
So we're going to go back and try our next area.
Well, tell me the Masonic part of it. I just find that to be intriguing as well.
Yeah, it is intriguing because the puzzles are kind of based on immigration stories of America. Everything from African American immigration, the slave immigration into New Orleans is really a big theme for us. And in the New Orleans puzzle and the Storyville, Congo Square, jazz. So there are all of these different elements to each one of the puzzles depending on what the city is. Boston being Masonic Central. So there's a ton of early revolutionary.
Correct. There's our national treasure thing, the Masonic connection.
Yeah. And it's really interesting, because it's like, I'm agnostic atheist. I'm not into, the Illuminati stuff, but the symbology that the Masons used is really fascinating.
It is.
And he's used it repeatedly in these puzzles. And it's really interesting to look at these Masonic areas. New York City was really fascinating when I realized where that one was. And even San Francisco, because both of those puzzles have massive churches in them, massive cathedrals. And once you find those churches, it's like, the symbology on the churches and how he used those images, some of those pictures inside of the images. Like when you're up at 3 a.m. and you're looking at this, there's some really spooky stuff. It's like, oh God,
Right. It almost has a. I think also I'm surprised I didn't think of this before now. The Dan Brown books.
It's absolutely that. It's absolutely some of that, and that's how it was designed. And I know that the whole Illuminati thing is like a big deal now, and I think that's when people find out that how these puzzles actually work, that's probably going to make them even more popular.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, I guess I should ask. I mean, obviously we've got more to cover even, but if you're solving these and you're working with other people, but in essence you have put you're, I guess, you're having an impact on these searches. To what extent are you able to claim any involvement with their discovery, or could you just go to each of these cities?
What's great about it right now is that I am completely in different places than what everybody else thinks they are, and almost every puzzle save Milwaukee. Milwaukee is, I think that people do know where that one is, and that one's probably going to be found sooner or later. But on the other puzzles, they aren't anywhere where people think they are in the cities, and there's a reason.
Your selection is not where they are looking.
Right,
okay.
Right. I appreciate that. Keeping me in check. I appreciate that.
Okay.
But what I would like to do, and I'm talking to some people about this right now, is actually do a TV series about uncovering them.
Oh, that would be so fascinating. That would be, because one of the things I think that stands out, and it takes me back to, I believe there was a search for some man who recently died, or he's very elderly, but it's somewhere in the West, and it's in one of the big national parks, and and I thought to myself, sometimes those are never going to be found, and they're going to be lost, perhaps, in terms of the history. Yes, someone will stumble across the book, they'll try again, but those are so vast, I'm not sure how people, you may have looked at them and thought, oh, well, that's not worth looking at or something, but it feels like there's this lore that needs to be documented, because one day they need to be found.
Right. And I mean, in this case, it's been 38 years, since he published the book, and I don't think that I'm not sure that he thought this would be so difficult for people. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But I mean, I can't believe that he would have thought that. I'm using current tools like Photoshop, and it took me a whole lot of work to understand how they actually did work.
Right.
So I don't, and that's really what I want to tell eventually. But I'm not really that greedy. I don't really want to own the casks. But I do want to go around and dig them up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, half of the battle is the excitement of the finding. I mean, we've all had that. I think I remember doing some kind of a similar type thing where you're looking for clues and you find something in college, and it is very, it's like you become that person again. That person who believed in this excitement that you just don't get in everyday life all the time.
Yeah.
So.
No, and that's how it works. I mean, in New Orleans, when I finally, I believe I found the New Orleans location. There was a problem with getting it up because it's there's a live oak that has since blossomed, and its root system is kind of engulfing it. So
it's going to take some expertise.
It would take what's called an air spade in order to get it out, because it basically uses air to dig, and that would not hurt the roots.
It would just move them out of the way a little bit. Down there. Yeah.
Right. So, I don't want to hurt a tree.
Right. For something like this. Yeah.
Right. But
my one question, but obviously, I guess there are probably many questions, but one of them is the artist, because the artist isn't talking. The one who did his images, does the artist know where these are, or did he do images based on?
He's played coy. He was in the interview, in the Expedition Unknown interview. He was kind of playing coy on it. I think that he absolutely has to know where they are,
because it had to make sense to him when he was creating the images.
Yes,
which are hand drawn, or no, they're done by computer.
Well, it's really fascinating you say that, because they were painted. They're painted. I believe they're oil paintings, not even acrylic.
Oh, okay. So some of
I may be wrong about that. It may be acrylic, but he also did some amazing things. The images are, if you want to actually,
if we could have a few of them while we're talking.
Yeah, it's he did some really amazing things with the technique, and he did. I discovered about 3 months ago that he's using mirror painting. So you won't actually find this unless you mirror the painting, the images over the top of each other. This is a Boston image.
Okay.
And he actually puts clues. There's like an arrow. It's hard to see right here, but there's an arrow pointing up to the top of an oval, and the park in Boston is oval shaped.
Oh, okay. So lots of symbols that. Right. But of course,
that's the actual image. That's not overlaid for Boston.
That's for Boston.
Right,
still.
And that's the cover of the book as well. And every single thing in that image has a meaning.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there's almost nothing that's random in the image. So.
But I guess with this kind of thing, is it not where I assume you've probably had people argue with you who are not doing this or not looking at these things, that they would say, well, Jason, certainly when you look for something, you're going to find what you want to see. It's, the park's oval and this is oval, and then therefore that makes them,
Right.
work together. And in reality, maybe that's just some kind of coincidence.
Right, pareidolia, where you see things that aren't there.
Yeah.
That's not what's going on.
Oh, okay. Well, and I think you've taken it beyond that. I'm just saying that must have been also frustrating at first.
And look, so. I mean, I am a journalist.
The park.
Yeah, that's actually the grid that's formed in Armstrong. And I think the next picture you'll see the Masonic overlay. It's up at the very top in the north west quadrant of the park, and it makes the Masonic symbol of the all-seeing eye and the compass.
Oh, okay.
And there it is. There.
Yeah.
Okay. So every one of the puzzles have a different shape. Okay, and with the compass involved, sometimes.
Okay. Right. The compass. You're right. I had just seen it as just an image, but you're right. It's actually what is used in that, and it's fascinating because it brings you back to even like we were talking about the national treasure thing of using that kind of. I mean, to say that people who were very much on the ground, they didn't have drones,
right,
to give them imagery. They didn't have, they couldn't go up really high in maybe a balloon, but even then you're not going to get that, and yet they were creating this just by having maps, maps,
and I'm not even sure that he meant for people to find those grids. That's what's interesting. I don't know that he actually meant that because, you can, like I said, you can find these puzzles without actually realizing it is a grid. But the grids are there, and
and that's what gave you that satisfaction that you had found those grids that fit with the all across the country.
Right, and what happens with each puzzle is it starts at one location and it jumps to another location. Mm-hmm. And people will, and the meaning, the clues in the puzzle have, they'll see meanings that match to that location, and then they think that they found the location and they get married to it. But the puzzles actually jump twice.
I assume these are.
That's actually Charleston.
Oh, okay. So another city. Okay.
Yeah, Charleston, South Carolina, which is a park that's Huntington Park in San Francisco.
Okay.
Where I believe it's buried, as opposed to where everybody else thinks it's Golden Gate Park.
Oh, okay.
And that's why, that's the catch. The puzzles actually jump twice. They don't just jump once. Uh-huh. And that's where people are getting messed up. And I figured that out, first with New Orleans, and then secondly with San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And I tested the hypothesis, and sure enough, in the images, it tells you how to jump. The coordinates are there, and they're hidden in the images. And every single image has this. They're in the same place in every single image.
Ah, okay. So do you feel like you're kind of a what is it? The Svengali of this crew of people across the country that they should be coming to you?
I feel like I'm the most obsessed. That's really what it boils down to. So, I just got really obsessed with it, and I am a journalist, and it's like, I'm used. One of the things that I'm trained to do is to not accept common assumptions, right? Right. And that goes a long way, and and I'm not afraid to be wrong. That's the other thing. Mm-hmm. So,
because you've had to be wrong
all
quite
the time.
A bit of times.
Yeah, and that's one of the things you learn in journalism. It's like, you don't know the subject you're talking about, no matter what people have said. You don't know what the story is until you actually go through it, and even then you may not know it. Mm-hmm. But you've got to have an open mind, and you've got to be able to accept failure. And failure it's 99% failure. Mm-hmm. I think, and the puzzles kind of echoed that in my life. So that's why I kind of got, I'm like, I just don't give up, just accept the failure until you figure it out.
Yeah, it fits the paradigm of how you work. So it is a perfect match for what you have done.
Right, right.
That you investigate and being able to do that and being able to accept some kind of change.
Right, and one of the main hunters in Milwaukee is a journalist too.
Okay.
So it's,
So you have some similarities to how you're approaching that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess as far as when you look at your, the results you're wanting from this, doing a documentary sounds like that would be a very good concrete way of giving this meaning and exciting people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Or even a TV series, and like I said, it's not that there's actually a gem that's associated with each one.
A gem.
Yeah, so if there's a key inside of the cask, and then you mail it into the publisher, and they send you back a gem associated with the puzzle, like an emerald or a ruby.
Oh, I see. So it's not that it's somewhere in New Orleans and this key opens up something.
No,
in one of the
you
cities.
send the key into the publisher, and they send you back.
So someone at the pub. Now did the publisher? You think they know where everything is, or is there?
They
whole
claim
purpose?
they don't. They
claim
don't.
They just have
all the locations. The priest died in 2008 in a car crash.
Okay.
And they claim that all of the locations went with him. And Palancar is just not talking because he's under non-disclosure agreement. But I know he knows. That's fine, though. It's he's doing what he should do. He's keeping the mystery alive.
And then the publisher, their only process or purpose is that the key comes in and we respond with the appropriate thing.
And there was some debate about whether or not they would actually honor it still. But they have sent word out that, yes, we're still honoring it. We still have the gems. If you're in a safety deposit box, send it in. We'll reply. I don't really care about that.
But come on, you have to want to see the results of that.
Yeah,
honestly.
Well,
because to me, it seems that for so much of our lives, even when we find we understand something, we think about an issue or something, and we finally understand it, or a person and the way they work, and when you finally crack it, you want some satisfaction. So it seems like you kind of would be overdue for saying, this time I want the reward.
Yeah, no, it's the reward was the hunt. That was what the reward is for me.
Yeah.
But it's bittersweet, I guess, to think that. I don't have any of them yet, so I haven't done anything. But I think that there's a couple of cities, San Francisco and Houston, that are going to produce something really quickly.
Okay.
So San Francisco in particular, and. It's going to be. I would just love to document how amazing these puzzles were, and hopefully, maybe Palancar's still alive. Maybe a mine like if there's another incredible mine like Priest around today, we can start all over.
Right. Because I was thinking it would be wonderful to have a new one of these.
Oh, it'd be great.
Yeah.
I am not that. I'm not that brilliant. There's no way that I could have done this. But I know Palancar is, and he's still around. So.
One thing I thought was interesting is I think you said that you feel that the author may have wanted to get people out and exploring their cities.
Yeah,
and
that's
I thought
what it
that
is.
was a very humanistic way of looking at it.
It's that, and also exploring the immigration of the city and how the immigration shaped each city.
Right, the movement of people and why these places were chosen. Because I thought that was in some ways, that is a great way to look at the whole thing.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
It gets people out.
And that's how it started with my daughter.
Right. So wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, and we hope everyone had a great time and that you'll join us again too. This was very fun, and thank you, Jason, for being our guest.
Thank you for having me.